Good afternoon, folks. As we're gathering up, I am assuming we're online and live and ready to go. Let me just make sure we got some sound. Sounds like we do. So I'll give folks just a chance to join in with us on our midday prayer time. Pastor Mike here, looking forward to being with you during this holy moment. We'll get started in just a second. If you are joining us in real time, as always, you can put any prayer request that you would have in the comments. I'll be glad to include some folks that you may name in the comments in our prayers. Also introduce yourselves to one another. Let me know you're here. Excuse me. If you're watching this later on, blessings to you, and I hope that that this time together is one that blesses your life. So we're going to get started. So I invite you to join me as I breathe in the breath of God. I breathe in God's love for me, and I breathe out God's love for the world. I breathe in God's love for me, and I breathe out God's love for the world. And one more time. I breathe in God's love for me, and I breathe out God's love for the world. So today our lesson I picked is from Psalm 95. It's verses 1 through 7, which is subtitled "A Call to Worship and Obedience." The first part I'm reading is more of the call to worship part. The obedience is the second part of this particular psalm. So I'm going to read verses 1 through 7. O come, let us sing to the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come into his presence with thanksgiving. Let us make a joyful noise to him with songs of praise. For the Lord is a great God and a great King above all gods. In his hands are the depths of the earth. The heights of the mountains are his also. The sea is his, for he made it, and the dry land which his hands have formed. O come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. It's a beautiful, beautiful invitation to worship. And I was thinking about this as I was preparing for this. Usually when we invite people to worship, we might not actually say, but maybe we think, and maybe the person we invite thinks, that we're inviting people to come to a building where we might worship. And yes, buildings are great places for folks to gather. Having a space to gather is always a good part of our worshiping community. But you can also worship, and I think the psalmist kind of tells us this as well, is it's more the collecting and the gathering together, no matter where that is the forming of community that enables the forming of a community that then becomes part of worship. And so I think it's good for us to ponder what it looks like for us to invite people to worship, not necessarily in a structure, but to worship as part of a community, to worship with folks that they know, folks that they are going to be new friends they're going to meet, and worship in ways that bring praise to God and that tell others of the work that God has done in our lives, as well as the work that God is doing in the world around us today. And so I'm inviting us to kind of consider what it means to be called into community together, what it means to be called to worship together, and how we might invite others to that time as well. That time might be virtual time like it is right now, where we're all online in front of our computers or our devices, but still community is being built, and worship is happening as we worship the God of all that there is, right? And our friends from Camp Hill are going to talk about that. They're talking about coming to the house of the Lord. And as we hear them sing, I want us to think, again, in terms of house as community, house as relationship, house as gathering, not a structure. Okay? So we'll hear our friends from Camp Hill sing, and then we'll get back together to pray. And if you have anybody you'd like to add to the prayers, please put their names down in the comments, and I'll add their names when we get to that part of our time together. So here's our friends from Camp Hill with House of the Lord.
We worship the God who was. We worship the God who is. We worship the God who is.